And today I'm going to be showing you how you can paint this month's star gnome from our Gnomoscope Pisces. If you got our newsletter, you got to see our special gnome Gnomoscope for all the Pisces out there. You can see that these are two mer gnomes, little cute, adorable mer gnomes that are swimming around each other. You can do this as both a horizontal and a vertical. I'm going to explain to you everything you need to know to be able to create this for yourself. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hello.
He's going to come over and turn my monitor on because it's off.
Oh, man.
This is what I kept saying, my monitor is black. He's going to come over, but beyond turning on my monitor and making sure equipment works, he's going to be zooming into the techniques and actions that I'm painting as I'm painting it. So you can see how I accomplish doing that, how I get the brushstroke, how I get the technique, how I get the event. I'm going to try not to panic about that other screen going black over there. We're a little bit nervous because we had some technical stuff this morning, so we did not know how it was going to go. Is it not? Oh, okay. I didn't know if we had gone away. When you do that, I'm like, he has a lot of hand signals for which I have never in many decades of marriage had any idea what any of them have meant. Like if we were a special forces team, no mission would get accomplished. So you can see that there's definitely an influence of beta fish and all of that on our particular mer gnomes. They are balancing themselves out, doing all those aquatic water sign things. We're working on a 9x12 canvas today. I'm going to take this reference and put it aside. If you want the reference or the free traceable, it is on the website because I do not expect you to draw. Even though today I'm going to show you how you can freehand your mer gnomes in.
Let me turn my mic back on.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing these in steps today, aren't we?
We are going to be doing them in steps. I have to go over a little more materials, and then we're going to begin step one. Do you have that? Oh, you do. Your lights are turned on.
We had a teenage morning.
Yeah. And we're professional YouTubers. Can you tell?
Mm-hmm. See, all the lights are on.
So 9x12 surface, and really my wish and intention on this one, and I put one on this image just because this is going on right now. If you need warmth, power, or water, I'm hoping that all those come back on for you wherever you need. And I'm hoping that leaders and communities start making safety measures before things happen. My mom is in Houston, if you guys are wondering. She is okay. I talked to her last night. In fact, I talked to her as her power went on. So that was, she was thanking me for the sweater I got her in Ireland when I visited with John. Remember when we went to Ireland?
I do.
I got her this really thick, ridiculous sweater that she never got to wear in Houston, but she just got to wear it last night. Over here on the colors, I have Dioxazine Purple, right here. Dioxazine Purple, Quinacridone Magenta, Cadmium Red Medium, Phthalo Green, Phthalo Blue, Cad Yellow, a little bit of Naples Yellow Light, and sometimes this is also called Titanate Yellow. I have a blog about this. It's actually easy to find once you know a couple of things, and that blog will help you do that. But also, if you don't have this, don't worry about it. And right there in the center is Titanium White. I don't really expect yet to be using black, but I have it aside in case I need it, and I will be using some Titanium White Golden Fluid paint. You could use craft paint or just thin your white paint down to do the line work when we get to that. Now you can put up step one,
Ooh,
the background.
Okay.
Oh, we're going to be using pouncers today. That's important to know. Art Sherpa pouncers, the best pouncers in the world. I don't need to hand it to you. You're not taking a picture yet.
Am I?
No, you're not. So really starting out, you're going to want to grab a fairly large brush because we're going to be doing a bit of an underwater effect, and you just want something large enough to let you get it all painted in. I'll grab this like a number 30 ruby satin. It doesn't really specifically matter which brush you use here, as long as it gives you good big strokes and lets you blend the canvas fairly easily. Now I'm taking a little bit of water and putting my wishes into the ether with my watercolor pencil. As you do.
It just blends it right in there.
It just blends it right in. And that way they don't get into everything. I'm going to just real quick kind of pre-wet the canvas where it's damp. Not wet, not soaking. No merfish will be in it. Just damp. It's just going to help it take the surface of paint a little bit better. And that's because I'm using some professional paint. It's a bit of a dry day. If you were using something like Artist Loft or Liquitex Basics, the paint is thin enough and the drag is low enough, you may not need to do this step, but just make sure it's not, if you do it, don't do it wet. So let's begin with a little bit of Phthalo Blue and Phthalo Green together. They are our aquatic color. And I'll get a little white into it. And we're going to just come across.
This is a vertical, isn't it?
It's a vertical.
Well, I don't know how I managed to get the references horizontal.
I have two thumbnails. I showed it as both a vertical and a horizontal. What I found was that people couldn't tell that they were gnomes on the horizontal, but could when it was vertical.
Huh.
However, I think you just hang it however you want to.
So is it, let's see here. Does the blue gnome go on the top or the bottom?
The blue gnome goes on the bottom.
Okay.
The blue gnome goes on the bottom, where the signature is.
Okay. Oh,
the signature is always a good clue. Where the artist thinks the painting orients.
It's very small in the thumbnail that I have, so I couldn't see.
Yeah. And I'm not sure at that point I had even signed the painting. Because sometimes, you wait a little bit to sign it.
Yeah.
So we're just mixing Phthalo Blue and Phthalo Green to get an underwater aquatic color. Make sure I paint. I don't really worry about painting the edges of my canvas. You can. I just want to make sure that I get around the part where it would show frame. So kind of a beautiful blue-green. I think we need to get a little heavier than this in the paint. There we go. Just making sure we've got a nice coverage. So you can see how once you get a little paint on there, it takes it better as you go. Not too bad. And it's okay if it's a little bit streaky.
Yeah.
Because that gives it sort of a water feel. Now, at this stage, I am going to want to dry it so that I can sketch on it, make sure I've got all the paint on it that I want to have. You can always do 2 coats if you want to, but sometimes it's just nice to make sure. There we go. Nice coverage. If ever you have trouble getting a canvas to cover, right, you can always do 2 coats. So don't ever be worried about that, especially in this type of background. I just want to get the nice deep value going down here. And what you will find is that as you paint up layers in acrylic, acrylic sticks to acrylic really well. So the canvas will paint easier as you go. All right. Dry day in the house. Dry, dry, dry. When we run the fireplace, it always creates some interesting painting challenges that I have not encountered before we started running a fireplace. Let me dry this. I'm going to try again.
All right.
Yeah, that's crazy. Let's not run the fireplace again before show. It's just so, I don't know if you can see this. My paint is almost drying as I put it out, even pre-wetting the canvas.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really frustrating.
So, these are legitimate struggles in the painting in the heated area. So she's just gonna make sure that she probably goes through, maybe add some glazing liquid or something to help make with the humidity, because I'm gonna I think I actually have a little. Let me check. Okay. Yeah.
So, is everything okay on the stream?
Yeah, everything's just fine.
So what happened there was, as I was painting, I'm seeing that the painting is drying as I'm brushing it out. Pre-wetting the canvas didn't even work. Depending on where you live and your atmospheric conditions, it can greatly impact your acrylic paint. We recently moved to an area that snows, like not a little bit, like a lot. And so we run the fireplaces often. And this somehow really pulls the moisture out of the air, which is why I've gone on to a wet palette, which I so have loved and been glad that I do. But also I'm running into new painting challenges. So rather than try to hide them or flub over them, it's just easier for me to tell you what's going on and show you how I'm going to fix it, because maybe this is happening to you guys at home.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now I'm going to come here and I'm going to add a little more white and green and paint into my color so that it's a little more covery. Let's go. Let's see if we can't get a nicer coverage. Often in acrylic painting, your second coat of paint will just look better. Almost always when you're working student paint. Those are economic paints, the paints that you buy in big sets for less money, are often student. And generally with those, you'll want to get a whole coat of paint on. See how much better that is?
Mm-hmm.
So that is the fix, is dry it, acknowledge it. First, you have to acknowledge what is happening, and then dry it, and then go again. All right, and then this is an unusually long step 1, guys. I'm so sorry.
Well, it's okay. It's still, the humidity is what...
But again, that's important to know about acrylic paint, and even watercolor. Oils, not as much. Obviously pastels, maybe not as much. But mediums that use water as a thinner, they will be very atmosphere affected. So you may have to work a little extra hard when those times are going on. Like say you were in Arizona in summer, right? And you had to be running the air conditioning and all of that. You may find your house conditions very dried out, and it'll be like really hard for you to blend or get certain techniques accomplished. But now you can see the second layer got us there. So whatever you've got going on in your painting, don't let it roll you. Don't let it stop you. Don't let it make you quit. Just continue on. Dry the painting, evaluate, step back, and know that there's always a solution to your art challenges, especially with acrylic paint. All right, you can take a picture of that, and we'll move on to step 2.
Okay.
Do you want me to dry it before we go over and put a picture on it?
Probably. I'll probably do that real quick so I don't pick up any. And I'll just say hello to everybody.
All right.
All right, guys. It's good to see you here. We think we've got most everything, back under normal control. It's been one of those mornings where we just had to put it all together. But we're here. And, it's pretty good to be able to do this every day and make a fool of myself for not having something prepared every time we go live. I don't know what it is. I just never seem to know what to say when you go and do that.
When I dry my painting?
Yeah. So it's like I just
Hi, how are you? How's everybody doing?
Yeah, I do that.
Good
but
to
then,
see you.
then I'm
comments.
just like, and then my brain just goes blank, and I'm like, what do I say? My brain just slows down.
So you're going to photograph the painting, and we're going to be going on to step 2. Did they already have their step 2 banner? Okay. So you guys are going to get your step 2 banner. Now, what we do after our videos is we timestamp them as well. So we'll put all the time codes in, and that way you can find the chapters that you're on. We started this at the end of December in 2020, and we've been doing them in every video in 2021. I don't know if we'll ever go back and be able to get all the videos because we have 1,000 of them done from before, but I think it's something I'm going to keep doing because it's making it so much easier for you in your art process. I love this feature. Also, if you do the mini books, we've been putting the timestamps in the mini books. Those are little free downloadable step-by-steps that show up, a week or 2 after a video releases that we write out that later become part of hopefully a book. Hopefully, but at least there's a mini book now. All right. Double check focus. He's double checking his focus. Now on the curve, try to remember to keep don't make a frown. I don't want to make my water frown. I want to make my water smile. So if I have any streaking or any of that, it just adds to the water effect. Let me show you how you can freehand these gnomes in. Now we have a traceable, and if you're a person who does not enjoy drawing, do not stress on that. That is okay. This instrument is called a T-square, and I'm going to mark out 4.5 inches, which is 11.5 centimeters. And I'm going to make a very light line across. This is going to help you guys see how I created these little gnome gnomes. Now, since this is 12 inches long, I'm going to come into the 6-inch mark. And this is going to pull my canvas into 4 quadrants. See how that's done? All right. Now, I know that I've got one gnome that's going to be coming kind of from here. And we're going to sketch in the gesture. Whoop. The quadrants help us see where we kind of want to place the gnomes. That's actually how I got them in the first time. I was trying to create this little Pisces fish effect. I could start here and figure out their placement a little bit better. Right? So can you see counterbalancing parentheses? Interestingly enough, I give them noses. And I like to put their noses are really kind of right around this space. Sometimes I have to flip the canvas one direction or another. I've got a new surface that I'm going to be testing for that, but I did not have it set up for today. So we will have to wait for that one. You can see the nose and then the smile. Now, they have little mer bodies, and I will start to sort of sketch those in, and they're well-fed gnomes. We will be hiding some of their mer bodies behind beards, but I need to make their little fishy self exist there first. Get that gesture, get that curve going of the little mer gnome. Make sure that they're fat, well-fed. I don't want to say fat. Well-fed mer gnomes. These mer gnomes have all the kelp and algae in the sea. Now, when I have that there, I will put my hat up. I'll start that, but I know that they're going to kind of bend over each other and maybe even cover fins. So it's a good time to maybe start thinking about fins. One of the things when you're looking for inspiration, even on a fantasy piece, I'm going to curve a tail, is to look at references from nature. When you see a really gorgeous sci-fi movie, right, where they have really wonderful creatures like Avatar, chances are that those artists looked at a lot of things in nature to adapt their fantastical world. So I'm going to make sure that I have that going on. And I based my little mer gnomes off of betta fish. And these are actually betta fish colors that I used.
Yeah.
To do them, which is crazy. I even use the betta fish to determine their colors. Is that not wild?
That's really good.
Now, their beards do an interesting thing. Their beards are going to come around and weave behind, right? Because they're mer gnomes. There we go. I'm going to do those in. Oh, you have a nice little weavy behind beard. Oh, actually, I got to weave it the other way. I went the wrong way. Now, the other way that I can erase is just take a damn finger and just come here. I just got to make his gnome. His beard goes the other way. It goes this way. And then wanders out like that. Now, he has a really fabulous tail. His tail is one of my favorites. And first, I'm going to come down and curve the big basis of the tail here. Little wiggly ends. See the little wiggly ends? I just want to see you guys, every once in a while I like to show you guys how to construct some things so you kind of get a sense of how things are maybe built.
Yeah.
We're going to make a little nice big tail that comes here. And we're going to add a little bit of full detail out there. Now we know we've got a hat that will come here. All right, so the hat will come down. So we know there's layering of the hats over the tails. Right? Chances are that when I paint his tail, I'll lose some of that hat and then have to put it back in. It's just nice to know where it is. So I can do that. I might make his tail fuller. His hat comes back and also does an interesting turn into his little friend's tail. And so that's how they weave together, these two. If you can see how they weave together.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we get the mer gnome weavy weave. You okay?
Oh, that's a remote.
So, again, you can use the traceable method. I have a whole video on how to use Cero paper and do transfer onto canvas. The traceable has been provided. You just download it and transfer it on at this stage. Or if you wondered how to freehand some mer gnomes, now you know, and you can put mer gnomes on everything. This is now going to be step 3, and John will take a picture of this.
Mm-hmm.
Just so I remember. Otherwise, because I realize when we're not taking the picture, the steps get off. It's a thing. Because the pictures don't match with the steps. Just challenging moments in our editing history. I have last month's little gnome Aquarius in a mug. This guy will be a mug very soon. We're going to have all of the gnome signs, all the star gnomes in mugs, I think. Aren't we? Isn't that the plan?
Yeah.
Mm. Okay. So now we're going to kind of rough in some of the basic stuff about our gnomes. I'm going to take, let's grab a nice big hefty brush. This is a number 8 black pearl. Is it very important what it is? No, it's not really. Actually, it's just nice that it's big and I can paint things in easily. I'm going to take some of my red over to my Naples yellow. All right, my Naples yellow light, and I'm just making this interesting fishy weird color. Isn't it an interesting fishy weird color? This is fish flesh. I can add white to it if I want to make it even more fish fleshy. This is often my go-to mix for the basis of white fish flesh. I just need to know where certain things are, and I'm going to paint them in roughly. And that'll let me put in a few of the pouncers in a minute. That's going to be our fish flesh there.
Yeah.
And then his body is going to be just really a blue. Now, I know I'm going to lose a bunch of the hats, but it's an okay time to sit there and say, oh, hey, I'll take a little of the red and quinacridone, cad red and quinacridone. But as you can see, it takes a couple layers sometimes. I could paint the hats white first if I was having real trouble, but I'm fairly sure it'll be okay because I've done it before. Just painting that in. The red's a nice one to get in so we can do a couple layers through the painting. And then while I'm here, I might take a number 4 round and begin the process of gnome nose. Which again, this is going to be magenta in my Naples yellow light. Makes a really great gnome nose color, if you did not know. See? At this stage, the painting looks pretty rough. You know, it's not really pulled, you know, out together. There's a lot to think about and do. We have a lot going on. And we've got to put a run of little bubbles, so I don't want to paint too much more than this in until I get my bubbles in. Because I've got to be able to go over them if any of my bubbles kind of bug my gnomes. My underwater bubbles. But this way, it keeps my mind centered on where I don't want bubbles. Because you don't want to put bubbles too much on your gnome.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to have them layer behind a little bit, but you don't want them too much on there. I'm going to dry this.
Okay. Gnomes. What to say about gnomes? Well, they don't like heat when you're drying them. That's for sure. But no acrylic really likes heat because it's heat sensitive. And what I mean by that is that it can make the acrylic soft. It can make it sticky. You just want to use your regular old air to do it. What you doing?
I'm gonna give this to you, and you're gonna put up the step.
Step.
Weird Gnomey day. It's a Pisces kind of day, isn't it? So, anyone in here who's a Pisces, throw up your fish. I think there's a sign in there in the emojis. Throw up your fish. If you're in emoji club, you guys got a new emoji. You got the Van Gogh. So when you tell somebody they're being a true artist or give them artistic encouragement, you can throw up your Van Gogh emoji. All right, here we are. 2 Gnomies, up, down Gnomies. Let's get the next part out. So one thing I want to have is a bowl of water set to the side. I've got my Sharky mouth, and I'm going to use pouncers. Now, there's a lot of things you could use as pouncers, or you could just freehand circles with your brush, but I'm going to use my pouncers. These are the Art Sherpa pouncers. I'm going to put out a little more blue, and other companies make pouncers too, so we're not the only one. I like ours the best, but other ones do it as well. And I'm going to begin with my larger size pounce. I'm going to go through with my bigger pouncer. So let's pick this size, and I'm going to get into my yellow, and I'm going to twirl. See how I'm twirling?
Mm-hmm.
Twirl. And I'm going to get into my green. Oh, that's lovely. And I'm making an uneven and interesting little kind of round.
Yeah.
Well, let's come here, and you can see I'm going to go a little bit into a fin and different places, because I want the bubbles to be part of the Gnomes. And that's why I don't want to go any further in the painting, just in case I have to paint over something, like I have mine on the hat there. Now, if your bubble doesn't bubble, you can always come back and smooth it out. You want it to have, maybe some drama. You can come get a little more phthalo green. And then in the twist, it will kind of shade the bubble. Give yourself a shady bubble.
Yeah? Oh, there it is.
Yeah. And I like the bubbles to sort of arc through.
Yeah?
Yeah. So they're making kind of an S. So these guys are making their shape, and then this shape weaves through. You do not want to leave paint on your pouncer. It will dry, and it will ruin the sponging. So that's what the bowl of water is for.
Just plop them in there.
Just plop them in there, and then they can even, be safe until the end of your painting session. If you're at home, though, it's a good time to rinse them out. Next set of bubbles are from the small pouncer. They're size down, and we're going to do blue and white. You can see the load is not, that particular. You can layer your bubbles. Which is always a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
They can be darker or lighter. And go over the green. Be artistic about them.
And you could add glitter or mica or...
Yes, you can. You can get playful with this part. And should be playful with this part.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're trying to tell the story of those coming through. If you did Bubble Witch with us, you're like, oh man, I've got this skill down.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you really like this technique, check out Bubble Witch. Bubble Witch was very intensive in the pouncer technique.
Yes, it was.
And that's all you've got to do for bubbles.
You just putting those in the water there?
Yeah, just putting those in the water so that the paint doesn't dry on them. Guess
Seems
what?
pretty
That's
good.
that step.
All right.
We're there. We did that step.
I think we're now step 5.
Step 5. See, you can find these really easy. We break these down into small bits so that they're not big areas of technique, and that way you're not trying to take in so much as a student. So you just work through your step, work through what it is, and then you're going to get to the end. We've been having great gnomes, so I know it works. Okay. He's going to take a picture of the gnomes, which is fantastic. I'm excited we're doing all, and we are doing all the zodiac, We're going to do all the signs of the zodiac. And yes, even in acrylic April, people will just have a double drop that day. So you just be busy, busy. But we're thinking ahead, thinking. So now we see that we do have a little layering, and that's okay, right? But we've got placement of everything, and that's going to make it easier for us to maybe paint in what we've got. I think I'm going to use, you could use a cat's tongue, you could use a round, but let's just pick a brush that we can work with that's going to be chill with us. And let's start painting in some tails. So this tail, let's start with magenta and the red. Where there's a layering, we definitely want to make sure that we brush that out. See how that's a little bit darker? I'm not going to take it to the end of the fin in any way, because I've got the end of my fin has little white tips. Notice that there's a bit of a curve and flick to my stroke.
Mm-hmm.
Number 8 cat's tongue, you could use a filbert or a round. The flow of the stroke and the value at this step is much more important. Rinse out. Now I'm going to do something kind of completely different over here. I'm going to take a bit of my cad and a smidge of my Dioxazine Purple. It's going to make a very deep, almost a burgundy red. And we're going to come here and also.
Oop, there he is. Oh, you did.
And you can see where the hats will be we'll have to put some of those hats back in.
Oh, yeah.
To layer over what we have. But that's okay. We don't mind.
Don't mind at all.
Mm-mm. If you painted the mermaid tail with me last night, you're like, man, she really likes this style of tail. And you know what, John?
They're good mermaid tails.
You would be right. I do really like that style of tail. It's kind of like the thing that I do. Everybody's got the split mermaid tail, but I really like to do the beta tails and fins.
Mm-hmm.
My son just got a beta.
He
a
did.
Really cool black and blue one. And then he discovered betas are not action fish. I don't know what he thought that fish was going to do all day. But it wasn't what the fish does do.
The action beta.
Which is like float around and cruise like a shark. I'm going to get a little, this is dry up top, so I'm going to get a little more of my magenta and cad red just to make sure that we've got a nice value. All right? 2 layers won't hurt us.
I see.
Just making sure that it looks good. That's a pretty good start. All right, let's call that a step.
Yeah.
That way you guys are just taking that in, and I'll show you how to put the fin edges on, the first rough fin edges.
Okay.
All right. So it'll be fin edges, mermaid body, then back to fins. We kind of jump it around. I'm gonna also have John microwave my coffee because it just got a little cold. It is tasty. You guys, what are you drinking right now? Do you have tea? Do you have coffee? Do you have soda? Do you have mimosa? It's all good. No judgy at all. This is really fun. So you'll have the 2 little mermaid bodies kind of weaving around each other. Notice that there's curve and shape to stroke. We're going to be coming here and adding the light tips to the fins, just the beginning of them. They're going to be real light because we want the fins to feel almost transparent. And the mixes are going to be in the Naples yellow, cad red over here, and then in the ultramarine and white over here is what we will be having, I think. Oh, I forgot to put ultramarine out. There we go. Put it out. You could use just phthalo blue if you have just phthalo blue. You could use just Phthalo Blue if you have just Phthalo Blue. So we'll go over the paint colors again because I had to change it. I didn't read ultramarine in the thing, so I must have written it down wrong. It happens. I do that. Okay. So going over the paint colors again, we have Dioxazine Purple, Quinacridone Magenta, Cad Red Medium, Phthalo Green, Phthalo Blue. I'm going to do ultramarine. If you don't have it, you just have phthalo, you can still make it work. Cad Yellow Medium, Naples Yellow Light, which is sometimes also called Titanate Yellow, and Titanium White. Let's add some fin tips. Now the first fin tips, we're going to take some of our Naples Yellow Light into our Cad Red and add some white to it so you get that very light fin effect. See that? Mm-hmm. That's the first layer. Now there's a weird, interesting sort of first flow over right here. And that's okay if it happens kind of wet into wet. Helps define that fin as its own fin. I'm going to come here on the edge on the toe of my number 8 cat's tongue. And I'm going to brush back in backwards. See what I'm doing? Mm-hmm. The fin back into that area. So brushing those in backwards. Ooh. And then we have the one at the top. I don't want any blue in it because that'll gray it out. I'll get a little remix if I need to. Now this fin it goes kind of a white, red, white. Mm-hmm. So we just sort of had to get those captured there just a little bit.
Wow.
Throw him back. There we go. So that is the first basis of the fin.
That's really cool.
I love that. It makes me so happy. Finny, finny, fin, fin, fin. Finny, fin, 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 fin. I can't paint enough fins. I probably could, but you wouldn't want me to. Anyways, these are going to be even cuter than the first two.
The blue fins?
I think I got even fuller with the fins on these particular mer gnomes.
The mer
gnomes also,
got
I don't
fins?
know that I'm over mer gnomes. Just generally, mer gnomes may show back up in mer may. I'm just saying.
There may be more.
This is the whole thing for me. Be warned. So I'm going to take my ultramarine blue. If you only have phthalo blue, don't worry about it. And I'm going to mix some white into it. Mm-hmm. And we're going to do a very similar technique where we're going to come back. Stroking back. This is again on the number 8 cat's tongue. And I'm really sort of engaging the brush from the toe to the edge. You get those interesting little feather layers. And then maybe this tail kind of folds over the tail in front of it. Mm-hmm. Curls back as they do. And I like to sort of lift. Now this is one of the moments when I'm going to turn the piece so I can have nice access.
Okay.
So now we have the basis of the two fins. Ooh, you gotta love it. I do. I really gotta love it. Who wants to paint more fish?
I do.
No, not Linda. Linda right now is in chat somewhere saying, these aren't guppies, are they? They're in no way fish. They're not fish. They're mer gnomes, which is an entirely different creature. They do tend coral, but they should not be as scary as fish. Just saying. Now you know that Linda's nervous about fish because I know all the things. Breathing in, breathing out. Now that we have the basis of the fins in, I'm going to come back and do some more detailing on the mermaid bodies. That way I can layer beards over them and also kind of resolve the tails a little bit. So again, I'm very fond of the Quinacridone Naples yellow mix there for fish flesh. Fish flesh. If you're doing acrylic April, we're going to have a break day that's fish. And, well, it's not a break for Lena, but it's break for everybody else.
Is there a naming process for these?
For the gnomes?
Yeah.
You guys need to name the gnomes. And we'll pick it. So you guys name the last gnome.
Yeah.
And we give you guys little credits in the mini books and the books for doing the names, and we'll let you guys know. You guys name the gnome in the comments and in the chat here, but I would also leave a name in the comments after so that we can find it easily. But I think a name would be great. I don't want to name anything. If you've painted with me for a minute, you know I'm not into the naming part.
Yeah.
It's not my jam, man. I'm like tree with girl and dog. And maybe balloon, because it had a balloon. I'm going to add a little more pink into there, kind of stroking that on one side of his little body, just to be fussy, because I can. I'm going to come here and get just another layer of blue and make sure that he's got a nice deep blue. To begin with. See how that's deep blue?
It is.
We're going to switch to a number 4 round. Yes, we are. And I'm going to get into my upper mergnome color, which is, again, the Naples yellow, the quinacridone. But I'm going to add a lot more white this time than I had before. And we're going to start adding little dashes for scales. And actually, sometimes scales are easier if you start at the end of the tail and layer. That way they tile better. I'm just using a number 4 round, and I'm just doing dashes.
Little dashes.
Little dashes. And they layer up. Kind of try to make them uneven and spaced out. You be spaced out. Right now, you guys are seeing why I did okay in the gift and paper market.
You did.
Yeah. I had a sense of the cute. At one point. Now dry that. You can let it air dry, or you can physically dry it with a hair dryer. For the purposes of this and the write-up, I'm going to dry it with a hair dryer.
Okay. And just make sure you get those thoroughly dried so the little layers, they don't pick up any of the colors below it, and you get nice vibrant colors. Also a good time to make sure you have clean water, all those kinds of things, especially when doing the highlight area of your tails.
Tails.
Tails, clean water for the tails.
Clean water for the tails. It's a good idea. Now I'm going to come back with my brush and some white paint. And I'm going to add some little detailing in the center. These are little reflective scales. And I always do them if you paint mermaids with me. You're very familiar with the middle highlight scales. You paint fish with me. There you go. So see how he's kind of got some shaping and shading now. It's very mermaidy. Now this guy, I'm going to kind of do a twist. And if you don't have the ultramarine blue, don't worry. Again, just use phthalo blue. I'm going to grab the ultramarine and some white, just because it creates kind of a different little blue. I'm going to add some scales. A little more blue than white. See how they kind of play against the background? Sometimes when you play with 2 different kinds of blue, it helps things show better. little dashes. Just little scale dashes. Number 4 round, little dashes. Dash, 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 dash. All right, dry it.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you can guess what comes next.
A step.
No, the center highlight.
No. Okay. I.
So maybe you don't. Maybe
Maybe I don't know.
Maybe you can't.
Yeah, just you gotta. So it's one of those days where, like, I'm gonna guess wrong, probably a lot, because I'm not necessarily a painter. I just watch.
No, I mean I was making an assumption.
I don't.
And you reminded me that maybe that was an assumption. I wasn't mad, baby.
I don't think you were mad.
Oh, okay.
No, I just was like, I felt flat-footed. I was like, oh,
No,
I didn't know I should know
what?
something
If
else.
I catch people flat-footed, I'm the guide here, right? If I catch people flat-footed, it's because I made an assumption, and that's on me.
I see.
That's on me.
I should have paid more attention that you were gonna do the same thing you did above and just make it even.
But if you never painted before, you might not have guessed, and that's reasonable because you don't know what you don't know yet. But there we go. Same sort of principle. It'd be like that with any color, any scales, or any different pattern where you had this particular type of scaled fish, especially if the scales are intrinsically reflective. You would see something like that. All right, now next step. Next step.
Now you're ready for
I'm ready for another step.
Okay.
And you're ready for a picture.
Let's see. Step.
Step 9 is fine. We're learning how to do mermen in time. Gnomes. I shouldn't rhyme. It's not sublime. It's almost a crime. I'm sorry. That got away from me there. I admit it. So on the fins, we're going to be doing a very similar thing we did before. We're just going to get into brighter reds and brighter whites over what we did. So if you remember, we were kind of red over here, and I might take a little of my yellow into my red. It's quite bright. I'm going to come right here. And in the middle of this top fin, kind of pop in just a bit of that bright red. And it just a little cad yellow in there. And let's do something similar here. It's okay to leave that shadow value.
Mm-hmm.
And if you need to, you can come back and even get some of the magenta and make sure that there's a bit of that shading. See how we did?
I do.
Don't use your coffee as a water cup.
Okay.
It's a terrible plan.
I'll try to remember that.
Yeah, don't do it. Little yellow. Not too much, just enough to make the cad interesting, right?
Yeah.
Under here as well. There we go. Quite lovely.
Yeah.
I like it. The red down here, little different. And I'm going to turn this over just to have better access to it.
Okay.
Now this time I am still going to do, I'm going to do a little of the magenta and cad red, right? Because I want this to be a bit brighter. And we know where we have the top fin, so I'm going to come here and put in its little bottom fin. Dry brush, you see that little color kind of go around. There we go, making those fins redder, right? But letting that dark value still exist there.
I misstepped.
Huh?
I double stepped us.
Did you? Can you fix it?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
just the last step was supposed to be 8, and I put up 9.
Oh, okay.
So the next time I'll put 9 up, but I just want you guys to know, said that the last one was supposed to be step 8, not step 9.
There you go. Sometimes during a live show, stuff happens.
So, happens. I pushed the wrong
Seriously,
button.
you guys don't know this, but everybody put up some clappy hands for John because the system this morning, just when he's like, do we have to do the gnome today? Yes, we have to do the gnome. It all crashed and it almost like you could see smoke coming off the commuter banks. I don't know what happened, but it just felt like it couldn't go on. And so he's been under tables and changing cables and just dealing with so much this morning just to make sure we could be live and not miss our scheduled time, because we're really trying in 2021 to be like, if it's on the schedule, to try to be there. Doing our best. All right.
So this
Take a step. Yeah.
This step should be step 9.
Yeah. The previous one was 8. This one should be 9. We'll make sure the timestamps are correct.
That. You don't want. You want
Well, thank
this
you.
button. There we go.
I appreciate
Oh my
you
gosh.
thanking us for all we do. Whoever did, thank you very much. I saw that really quick. Was that one of the super chats? Yeah. Really appreciate those. And by the way, if you ever wonder if I see the messages and everything, there's a dashboard that's for creators that on our back end, and so it saves that information for me, so I get to see that. So it's not missed, and it's always appreciated. All right, let's add the white to the fins, shall we? Okay, so coming in here, I'm going to really just grab some of this white. And we've got it loaded on our cat's tongue. And a very lightly, my pressure is super light, brush this back in. I'm going to let even some of the peach show through. And you can see that that gets that fin effect going.
Mm-hmm.
This'll work on all the fins.
All the fins.
All the fins, not just these fins. And this little fin right here, which kind of comes in, and because there's a double fin. And I have to put the white on top of the fin for the curl over. But now the curl over is much easier to see, isn't it? Suddenly you're like, oh, that fin curls over that other fin. That's gorgeous. And this Murnum says, yeah, I know I'm beautiful. I know it. But now you know it too. Give this second little fin a lot of love and, oh, so pretty.
It is.
Let's just do a lap on how pretty that is. Isn't that just
that
gorgeous?
is so nice.
Now I'm going to get a little of my white from down here. And maybe I'll flip him over. So I'll be right here, John.
Okay. Let's see if I can get up there. Shh. Yeah, they are.
There we go. That first little fin.
Oh.
It's just so pretty. And again, I'm just on the edge here. The pressure is very light.
Yeah.
Got to get my new easel going, and then these twirly bits will be so much easier. All right, here we go. And then this is its own fin.
Yeah. I'm having to turn the thermostat down because the furnace is causing all the cameras to shake.
Right? It's a whole journey, staying warm and also filming a live show. These are things.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what we're going to do there. And then we need to let that dry. We will do the delicate white lining as our last step. You could do it now, but I find it's nice to have everything dry and resolve before I come in and put in finishing steps. That way I don't have to go back and back and back. So this is 10, step 10.
This is 10.
This is 10. We're going to put in some beards. They need some birds, some beards. Some gnome beards. Gnome beards would be good beards. Step 10. They're flowing beards. They have beautiful, if you are a person with a beautiful flowing beard, speak up. Speak up. If you are a dwarf with a beautiful beard from the watch, speak up.
I don't know.
Those that watch the BBC just went, no. No, I actually love it. I don't care. I love it. It's maybe the most punk, cool, weird show that makes no sense ever. I love it. John will come in. He's like, I don't understand what's happening. I'm like, you'll work it out. You just go with the flow. They just tell you what things are and you just go with it. You just accept and go. That's pretty much how to survive the watch. I think to give myself a little bit of control, I'm going to use my number 4 round here. And I'm going to put a little smidge, just a smidge, of black into my white, just so I can start with an off-white kind of color. That will help me. And flowing strokes, you know, having a nice curve on the strokes does make a difference. We can clean up our chalk lines with just damp water. So don't get too worried about those. And if your natural brush stroke flows in a different place, then your chalk line also don't worry about that. That's okay. One of the things that really kind of pleased me about this particular project and why you will see mer-gnomes again is the idea that the beards are like the mermaid hair, which is my favorite part of mermaids. I like to take the little ends of it and kind of create some little flow off. I'll just come right carefully along the edge. And you can't really have it even too long because it's just fascinating, isn't it? I think I'm going to make it thicker here. Thick, beautiful, flowing mer beard. Oh, isn't that a beautiful flowing mer beard?
That really is.
The beginning of a beautiful flowing mer beard. And the mer beard goes where the mer beard goes. Now, if it's okay with you guys, I'm going to dry my surface because I often rest my hands, see this? And I don't want to drag paint. So I'm going to just take a minute to dry my surface.
Just real quick,
so if I'm resting my hand, I'm not dragging paint, which I did right there through the whole painting.
All right. And that's an important thing is that, especially when doing these kinds of, you know, lots of different areas where you're working and moving back and forth a lot, you should make sure you dry between those, and that'll help not drag the paint around.
It can be a good idea to keep wet wipes nearby when you're working in paint so you can clean up any smoogies on your hands. I'm going to just real quick fix my boo-boo.
Okay.
There we go. See, fixed it.
Pretty quick.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
So now you're on to beards.
I'm still back to beards. I just wanted to fix the boo-boo and make sure I could rest my hand. So yeah, if you have baby wipes around, if you have kids or young kids in the house right now, you know baby wipes like clean everything. They just clean what are they made of? They just clean everything. But they're particularly good at catching boo-boos of paint on your hand. You can also use alcohol wipes, but it can be a little drying. You just want to paint around everything. And we're going to put the little noses back, so don't be too stressed on them. There we go. And then we'll take our little gray. And as you can imagine, let's give our little beard a little watery set of, because, you know, hair kind of flows through the water, doesn't it? Where it's close to the body, I just want to make sure it's good, solid hair so I can use the highlights to create form and flow. There we go. Now, if this is dry, which that is because I ran that hair dryer earlier, I can go over the top of my beard with pure white. I'm going to come here and very carefully, I don't want to paint out all of my gray because the gray sort of helps the hair have form.
Right.
And I'm kind of dry brushing in, the gray showing, as you can see, underneath.
Mm-hmm.
And that way we get a little bit of that motion in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm such a weird person. Little curving, winding strokes. Just to talk about air underwater. There we go. I'll make sure this one is dry too, so I can do the white on top there.
Okay. Again, just make sure you get those little layers dried up, and that'll help us. And, oh, yeah, don't forget, just check in the description down below. You'll find links to all of the stuff about this, whether we have mugs or mini books or stuff like that. It's all listed in the link in the description down below.
Yeah, Aquarius is in the store right now. And Pisces will be there soon. I'm going to get a little more white paint. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The snow. I'm interested to see what everybody names the gnomes. What the gnomes' names are. I like it when the community names stuff.
Me too.
You can see that this brush stroke helps create the flow of that hair. And you can also see why they can be a horizontal or a vertical painting. There we go.
That's a pretty fantastic little mustache.
Yeah, he's got him some fabulous flowy merman hair. Gnome.
Gnome.
So you can see what I mean about you can take the chalk out with a wet brush. How you would clean that out. Okay, but this is a step.
That is a step.
And we're on to the last step. Well, not the last step. The second to last step, which is nose and hats. Last step is lining. So we'll have 12 steps. That'll be cool. Pick a picture of the gnomies. My brother gnomes. Who loves gnomes? Okay, so we love owls. We love foxes. We love gnomes. We love mermaids and unicorns and mushrooms. We're like a crew, aren't we? All right. So now we're going to do the interesting little hat event that we have going on. And we're also going to do the noses. So first I'm going to grab a little of my magenta again and some of my Naples yellow of what's left. And you can see that gives us a nice rosy nose. Not the end of the nose by any means. I'm going to come in with my red and start my gnome hat again. And you can see the second coat really works, doesn't it? And again, if you had to paint it white first to get a bright red, you could. I like to bring the hat out like a little bit straight and then make it go crooked different directions. Is a thing that I like to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to come here with my blue and transition between these two, which can be a bit of a challenging transition. I like it to kind of blend that way. And then I'm going to take my blue and make a little kind of flowy hat that's a bit flowy under the water. I probably for sure will also do a couple coats of my blue, just to make sure that I have great coverage, but I can let the hat dry a minute while I'm working on another area of the hat. And I can come back with the red, so it'll work. And I've got to do this one anyways. And this one goes, this one's a little bit easier because it goes from red to white, which is an easier transition space. Now, one of the things that I have to adjust for is the hat can only really be white over where it's red on the tail.
Mm-hmm.
So if I need to, I have to take this hat up longer in the red before going to the white. That way it can show.
Gotcha.
So now I can switch it. Because it goes kind of coral. And there we go. Little gnome hats. So that's the trick, is just making sure that there's enough of a tonal difference between the spaces for them both to show. I'm going to dry with a hairdryer and hit these with a second coat.
Ooh.
And then we will be ready for our detail lining on our last step. So, yep, using the wrong clippy clip. All right, dry so you can get that next coat.
Yep, and just make sure, as she said, you dry between those, because that's what's going to allow those different effects to work. I mean, like, while we're doing this, I'm going to go up here and we'll take a look at this. You can see how those dry brushing effects of the tail really just sort of, they require you to have those layers. So, turn our mic. Yeah, I was just saying that the dry brushing effect that you get, especially on the tail, really requires you to get those layers dry.
Yeah. So in painting, and I have some videos about this, like where to start when you're painting, we talk about common mistakes that beginners make. And one of them is knowing when the paint needs to be dry and when the paint needs to be wet. And that's not something you would organically know. That doesn't come from talent. It just comes from experience, which is why having instructors can be in the beginning kind of a good idea. It helps you kind of learn some of those fundamentals of art, right? So when you want to do dry brush, it does work best, especially in acrylic, if the layer underneath is dry. But when you're trying to blend, both of the areas need to be wet. So it's about knowing that balance. All right. Let us do another layer.
All right. The hats have it.
I mean, they're gnome hats. They're important, right?
Yeah.
And now this gnome hat is bright red, which is what I very much wanted. And I'm going to turn him upside up here so I can really see him. And I'll be a little dry brushy here over the hat where the blue and the red kind of transition. Because it doesn't really go purple. That is in no way what is actually happening. Now I may put a little white out, just a bit, just a smidge, so that we can add just a little white to the blue as we go. It will help with its coverage and everything that's going on there. It's not a lot. We still want a very, very dark blue. I'm kind of tapping that little brush up and down there because these two areas are wet.
Yeah.
A little white and blue. A little more blue where necessary. We're just trying to make sure it's got a nice color. There we go. Whimsin little windy hat. Windy hat. Sometimes I like to bring this down a little bit. This will be the red to blue transition is probably the bigger challenge. You know, so give yourself a minute to work that out. And make sure when you're looking at mine, you realize that probably, you know, you're being more understanding of my transition than even your own. What I'm doing is I'm kind of doing it like a little visual blend. It's another way to kind of create a little difference between those two. See, now it's a little bit of a better ombre.
Yeah.
A little bit of a better ombre. Speaking of ombres, flip it over. Red to white hat now has to happen. I'm going to take my red. It's quite nice now. There we go. And then I can get into my white as needed. There you go. Red hat, blue hat.
Yeah.
All right, last step, which will be the lining. So I've got to dry it to do the last step.
Okay.
Because the last step will be about cleaning up any chalk, doing white and black lining to create form and shape within the painting and a little bit of delicacy. And I'll show you how you do that.
So that'll be it. We're just going to do this one more step. We're going to take a look over here. It's really coming together. And yeah, and that last layer, when you're doing your highlights, go ahead and try to get some fresh water. That'll really help as well, so that you're not having any muddied colors in there. And yeah, that's make sure you thoroughly dry. Check the link in the description down below for all the stuff you might need.
All right. I'm going to get out my #1 monogram liner and my fluid paint.
Are we stepping it?
We're stepping it.
All right, we're stepping it.
Stepping it. So I'm going to get a #1. You want to find a detail brush, and you're going to want to have white paint that you can fine line with. If you want to thin your white paint, your heavy body paint, with water, you can do that. You may find having a second paint for fine lines is a nice thing to have in your studio, just because when you thin heavy body paint with water, you also thin the pigment density. But when you use a fluid paint, like even a craft paint, like straight out of the bottle and make lines, it will have more pigment in it. So that's why I bother to have the two products. I do know that you can thin it with water, but you'll find it gets very transparent. So it may not have the big, awesome effect that you're hoping for. I'm going to shake this up and I'm put some of this out right here, as you do. Somebody do.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get my monogram liner. First, I think I'll grab a little black. And I'm going to just make sure that my noses have a bit of a little line underneath them. It just helps them show.
Gotcha.
As a separate, important piece that you might have. Now I'm going to get into my white paint and I'm going to come up here. And along the fin edge, I'm going to make delicate little fin lines. See these? Where it helps define those little fin edges. Isn't that magical?
Yeah.
This is really one of those things where just knowing what can take that painting to that next space is super important. Because you can see now it pulls those two fins apart.
Yep.
It's also going to help me find my hat. Come along one edge. It gives me that fine line there. Just a nice touch. I don't even do it on both sides. All right. Just a little anchoring line. Look at the gorgeous fin now that we have right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's spectacular. If you want to do any little detailing on the beard coming out, you can do that here. Where you've got this white lining. Sometimes a piece will just come together at this stage.
Oh, so much of the details just sort of lend themselves here.
You can be so playful. Just, bringing that in. Going to arc out a little bit of a line there. And then I find it's nice to go under the hats. Helps define the hats a little bit as their own space. And once again, we're going to be lining fish. Fishy fish. Let's come here and give some wiggly, beautiful, frilly fin lines.
You're just using the white paint there.
This is just my white paint. This is just that fluid white paint I'm always talking about. But again, while I do super duper duper do like Golden's fluid white acrylic, you could use craft paint. And I get that there are budgets and we have to worry about the budget. I do get that. So why I make sure there's always free classes on the channel. So you can buy art supplies. This is what I do. You pull out that fin from that other fin from that other fin. Look at those gorgeous little fins standing out on their own, living their best fin life. I might sneeze.
Oh, okay. It's a mini sneeze.
You never know how that sneeze thing is going to go. It's a good idea to line your hats. Kind of exaggerate those little wiggly ends. Make them seem more of an aquatic element if you do that.
everyone's really enjoying painting with you here today.
I'm so glad. I'm loving painting with you guys today, too. A wonderful day to paint with you. A wonderful thing to be doing these little Pisces and astronomicals, gnomies, astronomology. Star gnomes is much easier, which is why they're all star gnomes, because that's just something I'm likely to spell remotely the same across 2 videos. If next month is your astrological sign, I hope you're looking forward to your gnome.
Oh yeah, I'm always looking forward to the next gnome, whether it's my sign or not.
Yeah, it's like they're all good. Like you could have all of them if you were into that. I'm kind of into that, but you might just be into your own sign. It's okay. I have no expectations. Gonna add a little bit of a reflection on both noses because that can be kind of nice.
Oh, those are so nice gnomes.
You know, and again, if you are at the end there, you can always just get clean water.
Oh yeah, clean up the little line marks.
As long as you didn't do it, you didn't press in, your chalk too hard or, do your stuff too hard, they should pull up. And even if they won't, you can go back with your original aqua color. Right? Do that. So you're not stuck. There we go. A little bit of that. It's all clean now. And they're very fishy and very gnomey. And it's time to sign.
All right.
We've got a really fun class this weekend. I think this mountain with wildflowers is going to be really special.
Yeah.
As special as our perfect wave. So if you are a Rocky Mountain wildflower person, don't miss it. You're gonna love it. All right. Check that out.
Wow. That was pretty magical.
I hope this is just a good year for everybody, no matter what sign you were born under. I wish us safety. I wish us security and warmth and water and health and finance, whatever it is that you need in your life, just to be okay. I genuinely wish that for you. Remember to be good to yourself and be good to each other. And I want to see you and Aneasel really soon. Bye-bye.